My name is Lena Monroe. I'm 36, a freelance researcher with a resume full of other people's secrets and a bank account that says I'll never own my own home. I live in the guest house behind my mother's estate in Boulder, not because I want to, but because rent in this city is war and she's always played landlord like it's blood sport. My siblings are married, wealthy, and holiday photo perfect. I'm the one who never had kids, never settled down, and never quite fit the Monroe mold. They call me the free one. But freedom starts to feel like exile when it's used as an excuse to dump everything on you. This Christmas, they didn't ask me to help. They expected it. 6 kids. 5 days. No pay. Or else my rent triples. And that's not even the worst part. Because somewhere in the paperwork, someone forged my name. And that's when I knew. This wasn't about babysitting. This was a setup. It started with a phone call I didn't want to answer. The screen read mother in all caps, like she named herself that on purpose. I let it ring twice, then picked up. "You've been unusually quiet this week," she said, skipping greetings. "Are you avoiding me?" "No, I lied. Just busy." "Well, clear your schedule. I need your help." I leaned against the cold kitchen counter. "With what?" "Christmas," she said. "Your brother and sister are both bringing the kids. You'll watch them." It wasn't a question. "And if I say no?" Her pause was half a breath. "Then I'll be forced to revisit your rental agreement. Rents are rising everywhere, Lena. I've been too generous." The silence that followed felt radioactive. "You're threatening me over Christmas babysitting." "I'm giving you options," she said. 6 children. 5 days, family time, or triple rent in January. I hung up. Then I opened my lease agreement. The PDF loaded slow, like it knew what it was hiding. There it was, a recent amendment to the rental clause, time-stamped 20 minutes ago with my digital signature. I hadn't touched the file since September. Someone used my credentials. I clicked on metadata. Document accessed via IP address ending in .51.149. Not mine. Not any public network I'd used. My stomach dropped. The signature matched one I used on DocuSign 2 years ago, pulled from a completely different contract. A deep fake legal update. Done so cleanly I'd have trouble proving otherwise. She planned this. I left the lease open and checked my phone. 5 new texts from Vivienne. "Let's not make this ugly. You don't have children. You have time. You live in my house. I won't repeat myself. Let me know by tonight." The last one hit different. It was a trap disguised as choice. I'd seen this play before. Same script. Different stakes. Last Thanksgiving it was, "Can you pick up the kids for Marlowe?" The year before that, "Bennett has a retreat. You'll handle the twins." But this was something else. I took a screenshot of the document. Then I called Jordan. He answered on the first ring. "Tell me you're not calling about your mother." She forged my signature. "You're kidding." "I'm not. Lease clause, new terms, and a digital print that isn't mine." Jordan swore. "That's federal, Lena." "I know." A beat. "You running?" "I'm thinking. You should already be packing." I packed fast. Backpack, encrypted drive, burner phone. No notes, no trace. Just in case. Cut to 10:21 p.m. I'm walking down the alley behind the Monroe estate. Cold air slicing my lungs. Across the driveway, Ellis, my mother's handyman, sits in his SUV with the engine running. He doesn't wave. I keep walking. I don't go to the airport. That's too obvious. I go 3 towns over, take a Greyhound to Denver, then ride share to the Springs. Buy the plane ticket there. One way. Destination, Seattle. Departure, 4:55 a.m. From the airport cafe, I open my phone and log into my bank. Frozen. Access denied. Admin override listed under an old cosign authority, Vivienne Monroe. She hadn't used it in years, but she remembered it existed. My balance flashes 0. The next moment, a message arrives. You can run, sweetheart, but don't forget who taught you how. If I stay here, I lose everything. If I leave, I just might learn the truth. Seattle wasn't a destination. It was a decoy. I booked it with points, cashless, untraceable. Just enough to get out of Vivian's radius. The bus to Denver was cold, slow, filled with the hum of tired people running from something. I didn't sleep. I counted every minute, every red light. Jordan texted once, pack light, think like pray. I did. Cut to 3:08 a.m., Colorado Springs Regional. I bought a burner phone from a vending machine in Terminal C, popped the SIM, switched off my real one, dumped it in a trash can by the women's restroom under a paper towel soaked in ketchup. No trace. Security checkpoint. Light buzzed. TSA waved me through. I didn't exhale until I reached gate 19. The plane was late. Delay due to unspecified maintenance. Figures. I sat with my back to the wall, where no one could come up behind me. I scanned every movement in the terminal. An old man stared too long at the departures board. A woman 2 rows down opened her laptop, typed nothing, just stared at a blank email draft. There's a specific kind of silence that feels like someone breathing down your neck. By 5:21 a.m., we boarded. As the engines roared, I watched the lights of Colorado vanish below the clouds. Leaving is survival. Staying is submission. Seattle hit like a wet slap. It was raining, of course. Always is. Jordan picked me up in a nondescript Toyota with mismatched hubcaps. No hello. No hug. Just a nod. You hot? He asked. Phones, trackers, cards? Clean. You sure? I held up the burner. He nodded again. We got 48 hours, max. To do what? Crack what you brought. We drove in silence. City lights slicing through fog. I watched his knuckles tense on the wheel. Jordan used to work federal-level IT. Got burned during a whistleblower scandal. He owed me one. I never thought I'd need to collect. His place was a 4th-floor unit in a building without a name. No lobby. No mailboxes. Just concrete, metal, and motion sensor lighting that always lagged 1 second too late. He handed me a hoodie. No lights. No windows. Inside, the place smelled like server fans and burnt coffee. I pulled the drive from my pocket. He hooked it into a sandbox rig. Firewalled, cold, no external access. The file opened. 1 folder. 1 document. Custodial transfer. Monroe Holdings Trust, 12/24. I stared at it. Jordan didn't blink. She's handing over the kids. Temporarily. No, Lena. Legally. The document had my name listed under primary guardian, effective immediately upon absence of biological parents. Vivian had signed as the witness. Notarized. Digitally time-stamped 3 days ago. My voice caught. She forged everything. No, Jordan said slowly. This isn't forged. I froze. What? The signature? It's real. The platform shows biometric match. Voice ID. Typing cadence. GeoPin confirms your IP. He turned the monitor toward me. You signed it, Lena. I didn't. You were hacked. My chest went cold. I haven't been home in days. Jordan clicked into the metadata logs. Accessed 2 nights ago. IP registered to your house. But I was out. He turned to me. Someone accessed your devices remotely, using credentials they already had. Vivian has your entire digital identity mirrored. A noise behind the wall like a footstep. We froze. Jordan killed the lights. Moved to the window. Street light flickered. Then movement, a silhouette shifted behind a parked van across the street. Jordan's voice was low. We've been followed. How? I used a private line. Not private enough. The lights cut. Total blackout. A second later, pounding. Not the door. The building fire alarm. We grabbed the gear. No elevator, Jordan said. Stairs. Now. We ran. 4 flights. Rain slick floors. I slipped once, caught myself on the rail. Outside, sirens in the distance. Red lights spun through fog. Neighbors scattered, half-dressed. Cold air stabbed every breath. When we reached the sidewalk, I glanced back. Jordan's door hung open. Inside dark. Except one thing. A laptop on the floor, screen still lit. We ran back. Too late. The screen glitched, pixels scrambled, then black. Then, boom. Glass shattered. The shockwave punched us to the ground. My ears rang. Jordan's coat was singed. Flames licked the windows. Someone screamed. I coughed. Tried to stand. Blood in my mouth. Not mine. Jordan grabbed my arm. Pulled me down the block. We ducked behind a dumpster. I tasted metal. Saw flashes. They torched the room. He nodded. They wanted the file gone. But I still have it. Jordan reached into his coat. Pulled out a backup drive. I cloned it earlier. Didn't tell you. Just in case. I blinked. Trust is built when you expect betrayal. He shoved the drive into my backpack. We've got maybe one more move left. Where? He looked at me. Blood smeared on his cheek. I have one friend in federal archives. We find out what this document really means. I zipped the bag. He checked his cracked watch. You ready? I nodded. Then my burner buzzed. Unknown number. Message. Nice move. But she's still 2 steps ahead. Check your bank. I did. Frozen. Again. Admin override. Vivienne Monroe. She wasn't just watching. She was in control. They didn't just want me watching the kids. They wanted me on record as their guardian. We ditched the Toyota 2 blocks from the blast site. Jordan moved like he'd done this before. Tight turns. Fast breathing. Eyes never still. I wasn't asking questions. Not yet. Trust was borrowed currency now. Interest was panic. Cut scene. We ducked into a late-night diner off I-5. Chrome tables. Fluorescent flicker. Waitress didn't even look up from her crossword. She poured coffee like we were regulars. Jordan opened his laptop under the table. No Wi-Fi. Local only. Whoever they are, he muttered, they're not just watching. They're editing reality. What does that mean? Means whatever you think you've signed or said or done, they can replicate it, redirect it, timestamp it, and make it legal. He tapped a few keys. This isn't a hack job. This is state-level code. Outside, a garbage truck reversed. Beep, beep, beep. I flinched. Jordan didn't. Once a system knows your rhythm, Lena, he said, you don't need to say yes anymore. They'll say it for you. The coffee was burnt. Still drank it. I pulled the drive out again. We need someone who knows how this was built. Jordan hesitated. You remember AMC? Advanced Municipal Contracts. The software lab your mom shut down. He nodded. They built the estate protocol, the trust algorithm, every automated transfer rule Vivianne's been hiding behind. Someone there knows? One guy. Nolan. I blinked. Nolan Carmichael? Jordan's silence answered. You told me he disappeared. He did. Then how do we find him? Jordan slid a napkin across the table. On it, an address scrawled in blue ink. Because before he vanished, he gave me this. Cut scene. 9:42 a.m. Tacoma Industrial Zone. Gray. Rotten. Air smelled like rust and mildew. The building was abandoned in theory. Cameras weren't. We pushed open a warped steel door. It creaked like a scream. Inside, old servers stacked like bones. Empty desks. Cracked monitors. But heat still came from somewhere. Down the hall, a humming sound. Then a voice. Jordan. He froze. The voice repeated, female this time. Jordan Shaw. He stepped forward. Lena, stay behind me. I didn't. Nolan looked nothing like the photos. Beard. Burned out eyes. Limp. But it was him. The woman beside him, maybe 30, blonde, armed. She wore the air of someone who'd shot before. Lena Monroe, she said. Do I know you? I'm Martine. Federal Archives. Why are you with him? She exchanged a glance with Nolan. Because your mother destroyed 4 depositions tied to a 1999 legal override program. Nolan helped write it. I helped bury it. Jordan muttered, Jesus. I stared at Nolan. What's in the trust, Nolan? He pulled a binder from a locked steel drawer. Everything. Twist drop. The Monroe Holdings Trust wasn't a family asset manager. It was a custodial redirection protocol. A tool designed to shift property and legal guardianship across encrypted channels, triggered by absence of confirmation rather than consent. If you fail to reply to an automated ping, Nolan explained, you're declared legally non-participatory. Everything defaults to the preset, including your own rights. Meaning, Vivienne doesn't need you to agree, Lena. She just needs you silent. Martine added, and if you try to dispute the system, you'll lose, Nolan cut in, because the system proves itself. Cut scene. Martine handed me a file. Photocopy. Old. Yellowed. Monroe Estate. Private adoption clause. My name. Signed by Vivienne. Below that, a redacted line. Parent of record, Evelyn Slate. I stared at it. My blood turned to glass. Who's Evelyn? Your biological mother, Martine said softly. Vivienne took you in after Evelyn's death. But legally you were adopted for a reason. I couldn't speak. She needed a clean proxy, Martine continued. A dependent with no direct stake, but just enough relation to shield assets. You weren't her daughter, Lena. You were the firewall. The walls closed in. I saw the estate. The photos. The staged Christmases. I remembered the one time I asked why she never said, I love you back. She smiled and said, love is too subjective to notarize. I stood. I need air. Outside, the alley was still. Quiet. Until it wasn't. Across the street, a black SUV. Someone inside raised a camera. Not a gun. A camera. Click. Click. I ran back in. They're watching. Martine didn't panic. She picked up a go bag. We're burning this site. Nolan began yanking hard drives from racks. 30 seconds. Jordan backed up the last files. Where do we go? Martine zipped her coat. Denver. Why? She looked me dead in the eye. Because that's where your mother's flying out. One way. No extradition. My voice cracked. Why me? Martine's answer was cold steel. Because you were never supposed to survive this long. The drive from Tacoma to Denver was silent, but not peaceful. Jordan drove, like he had something to outrun. Martine scanned the rearview mirror every 20 seconds. Nolan kept muttering equations under his breath, like the math might save him this time. I didn't speak, because silence was the only space left where my thoughts didn't echo with betrayal. Every memory had turned into evidence. Vivienne teaching me how to sign my name at 6. Vivienne saying, you're safest when you say less. Vivienne smiling when I told her I didn't want kids. Everything she did was programming. You know what people forget about firewalls? I whispered. Jordan glanced at me. They're meant to burn first. We stopped in a warehouse parking lot just outside Littleton. Jordan knew a guy with access to an off-grid conference center. One of those old telecom bunkers now rented out to paranoid execs and survivalist influencers. The walls were 10-inch concrete. No windows. One steel entrance. Triple locks. Martine called it a temporary truth zone. Inside, They unpacked equipment like surgeons prepping for a transplant. Nolan dropped 3 manila folders onto a steel table. One labeled Lena, another Vivian, the last Talmadge Children Guardianship Scheme. I stared. Talmadge was my sister's married name. Explain, I said. Nolan adjusted his cracked glasses. This isn't about your rent, or babysitting, or even you. He opened the folder marked Talmadge. Inside, a corporate proxy agreement. Vivian had leveraged guardianship of all 6 of my nieces and nephews into voting shares in a trust fund structured as a holding company. Guardianship isn't parental anymore, Martine said. It's leverage. Each child has a stake. As their legal guardian, you hold 6 votes. Votes for what? Control of Monroe Holdings, Nolan answered. A conglomerate worth $88.6 million in diversified equity. Quiet, clean, hidden. I laughed. Once. Bitter. I thought I was poor. You're not, Jordan said. You're just the last one who didn't sell out. Cut scene. They showed me the clause that started it all. Buried in the 1999 Override Protocol. Custodial proxy activation upon parental inhibition. If my siblings were considered unavailable, legal authority defaulted to me. Unavailable could mean anything: travel, silence, medical leave, unreachable. And Vivian had already triggered it, with falsified emails, voicemail deletions, and spoofed GPS data. They think their kids are at a ski lodge, I whispered. Martine nodded. But legally they're in your custody. I gripped the table. She stole their children without taking them. She did more than that, Nolan added, voice thin. She made you the thief. Jordan's laptop beeped. He clicked. Froze. What is it? I asked. He turned the screen. Court filing. Dated this morning. Vivian had just submitted a guardianship confirmation under emergency jurisdiction. Signed by me. Filed from a Denver IP, Martine said. Looks like your burner location was cloned. Again. Nolan whispered. She doesn't need your fingerprints, Lena. Just your pattern. Enough, I said. I stood. My breath shook. She's going to disappear with everything. The estate. The trust. The kids. Leave me holding the bag while she vanishes somewhere no one can extradite. Exactly, Martine said. Which is why we're going to stop her. How? By showing them who really forged the paperwork. I narrowed my eyes. Martine opened the Vivian folder. Inside, 2 things. A surveillance photo and a bank transaction log. The photo, Vivian entering a restricted data center in Santa Fe. Time-stamped the same day my signature was captured. The transaction, wire transfer to Oakland Consulting, a shell company linked to Signature Replication Tech. I blinked. That's federal fraud. Exactly, Martine said. If we prove this, it collapses the whole trust. I stared at the photo. Her hair was pulled back, sunglasses on, but it was her, Vivian Monroe, always 3 moves ahead. Until now. We planned fast. Jordan encrypted the files. Nolan drafted a summary with witness statements. Martine prepped to submit evidence to a Denver judge. If we can get the injunction in time, she said, we can freeze her assets before she boards that plane. What time's her flight? 9:40 a.m. Denver time. Tomorrow. 9:12 p.m. We left the bunker. Took separate cars. I rode with Martine. Rain slapped the windshield like drumsticks. Fast. Erratic. I kept checking the rear view. Nothing. Then my phone, the burner, buzzed. Unknown number. A photo. Of Jordan. Hands up. Kneeling in the warehouse parking lot. Caption. Wrong game, wrong pawn. Martine swerved off the road, tires screeching. I stared at the screen, stomach caving in. They took him. She gripped the wheel. No, they baited you. The next photo hit harder. My old apartment. Vivian on the porch, holding a glass of wine. with the kids playing in the yard behind her. I stared, and in the reflection on the glass, she was staring straight into the lens, like she knew I'd see it. Rain hit the windshield in sharp stabs as I drove toward Denver. Every drop sounded like footsteps, someone approaching from behind. Martine rode shotgun, eyes on the rear view. No talk, just tension. In the back seat, the encrypted drive weighed on me like a promise I wasn't sure I could keep. We pulled off at a deserted rest stop. Neon flickered above like judgment. I lit a cigarette, then crushed it underfoot. Martine didn't judge. She just watched. Funny, I said, voice low. They think control is quiet. They mistake noise for chaos. She didn't flinch. Jordan was gone. Snatched. And now it was just us, a tech ghost, a burned archivist, and me, the proxy. Martine hunkered over the GPS app. Time check. Flight leaves Denver at 9:40 a.m. We have 8 hours. I exhaled. One rule of high-stakes games. The enemy only needs one move to win. You need two. We reached an old conference center. Gray concrete, barred windows, perimeter cameras that blinked red like hungry eyes. The place was deserted at this hour. Perfect. Inside, the air smelled like dust and old regret. Martine plugged the flash drive into a terminal in a security office. Monitors lit up. Bank logs. Digital trails. Surveillance timestamps. Every piece pointed to Denver, the exact house where Vivian waited. One file stood out. Emergency authorization log, signatory, Lena Monroe, timestamped at 3:07 a.m. yesterday. Logged from an IP that wasn't mine. How does she do it? I whispered. Martine's answer was ice. Layered digital identity. Every device you ever trusted was a node she controls. I stared at the screen. The glow looked like a cage. Knowledge, I said, isn't power if the other side owns the truth. Martine didn't correct me. Suddenly beeps. Sharp. Insistent. Security breach. Cameras around the building blinked to life. Someone was outside, circling. Martine hit a button. Lockdown protocols. Doors sealed. Cameras switched to thermal. Heat signatures moved fast. 2 figures approaching. I didn't recognize the gate. Too nervous. Too jittery. Move. Martine dragged me down a hallway. We can't let them see what we have. We reached the basement archives. Thick metal door. I punched the code Martine gave me. Inside, filing cabinets, old servers, hard drives labeled with acronyms I didn't understand. One drive labeled Denver_Trust_Primary. You sure? I asked. Martine nodded. This is it, the key. She ripped it off the rack, placed it in her coat. Then sound. Metal scraping. Footsteps on concrete. Echoing. Slow. Deliberate. Martine looked at me. Get ready. A sudden explosion rocked the conference center. Concrete, dust fell like ash. We were thrown off balance. I hit the ground. Heartbeat pounding. Smoke. Sirens distant. Then a voice distorted through comms. Drop the drive. Walk out with your hands visible. Not a threat. An order. Close. I heard boots. Martine whispered. Ambush. I snapped up. My pulse was a machine gun. Then a phrase echoed in my head. Trust the stillness when the storm is near. I stood. Hands empty. Slow. Who's there? I yelled. Footsteps stopped. Silence. A figure stepped forward. Silhouette under flickering light. A familiar gait. Not Martine's. Not Jordan. Vivian. Her coat buttoned. Hair plastered from the rain. A smirk sharp like shattered glass. Nice of you to join the party, she said. Slow motion moment. Camera would have captured the tilt of her head, the half-lit smirk. I wasn't ready, but I moved. Where's Jordan? Her smile didn't waver. He's safe. For now. I blinked. What do you want? To finish what I started, she said. And you're standing on the last page. She stepped closer. Cold. Controlled. I needed someone who could protect the children. I needed someone the law wouldn't touch. Her eyes didn't look like a mother's. They looked like a strategist's. The law. I repeated. Yes, she said. The law. Public record. Birth certificates. Guardianship logs. Trust filings. Emergency mandates. All valid. All federal compliant. I didn't know whether to feel sick or betrayed. Then, twist drop. Vivian held up a USB. You think I did this for money? She said. I did it for legacy. For protection. For survival. I stared at her. Why fake custody? She paused as if tasting the lie. Because, she said, I hid things. Things that could erase this family from the record. If anything goes public, we all lose. My breath felt pulled out. What things? Her smile sharpened. I'll show you. Then she turned, walked away into the shadowed corridor. I hesitated, but followed. Cut scene. We reached a data vault, biometric locks humming. Vivienne swiped a card. The door opened into a room, filled with screens. Every screen displayed a member of my family. Real-time feeds. Homes. Cars. Offices. Kids playing. Parents arguing. Routine days captured under surveillance. Without consent. Without warning. I felt my stomach drop. She didn't just control me. She controlled us all. That's how I kept this family safe, she said, voice calm. Knowledge means survival. My heart a hammer. I stepped back. Surveillance footage showed something impossible. An unmarked camera inside my childhood bedroom. Then the cops. Real time. Sirens screaming. Red lights dancing on concrete. Vivienne didn't flinch. She let me see it, and then said, Now you understand. It's not about guardianship anymore. She turned to me, eyes cold. They want power. I want truth. I didn't know which was worse. And right then, as the echo of sirens grew, I knew one thing. This wasn't a rescue. It was a trap. And I had just walked in. The next message on my burner buzzed. Unknown number. You just found the backbone. Time to break the spine. The sirens were closer now. Red and blue through light like knives across the data vault's cracked concrete walls. I stood in the threshold, breath shallow, watching Vivienne's silhouette framed by the flicker of emergency lights. She didn't look afraid. Not now. Not ever. A hand grazed my shoulder. Martine. Her eyes said one thing, finish it. Vivienne's voice didn't shake. You think exposure saves you? She asked. I took a step forward. Truth isn't the weapon. It's the shield everyone forgets to pick up. The air was thick with static, like electricity before a storm. Then the first agent's boot hit the metal grate. FBI. Step away from the suspect. Vivienne smiled slow, calm, as though she'd rehearsed this moment more than once. I didn't wait. I lunged. Concrete shattered. Steel bent. Vivienne didn't go down easy. Her elbow caught me in the ribs. Pain flared white-hot. I heard Martine shout. Then another impact, Vivienne's hand slamming a heavy filing cabinet into my back. Pain rushed black spots, but I saw her eyes flickering. Not guilt. Not remorse. Strategy. She whispered, legacy isn't given. It's taken. Her words landed like bullets. I twisted free and pushed off the wall. The FBI agents were too far, too slow. I had one shot, one breath. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the USB, the one with every last backup of the trust files, surveillance logs, and Vivienne's own encrypted confessions. Martine yelled, "Don't!" But I did. I pressed it into the nearest agent's hand. His eyes widened. Then chaos. Media alerts, lit phones everywhere. This wasn't just another bust. This was the downfall of the Monroe corporate shield. Vivian staggered, watching that data download. Her face lost color. "I thought power protected us," she said, voice brittle now. "But power doesn't protect, it exposes." I didn't respond. I just watched the transfer complete. Every secret, every hidden clause, every illicit amendment tied to my name and Monroe Holdings. Monitors inside the vault lit up one by one, like stars snapping into place. Then a beep, global transmission complete. The room went silent. Then the agent spoke. "You're under arrest, Vivian Monroe." She didn't resist. Not even a flinch. As the cuffs clicked, she looked at me. "I did it for family," she said. "But I forgot. Family isn't something you own." Outside, the sky was pale gray, the kind of morning that looked innocent but promised rain. Jordan stumbled out of the armored SUV, bruised, tired but alive. I took a step toward him. "You okay?" I asked, voice hoarse. He coughed, nodded. "Never been better at surviving," he said, half grinning. "Worst-case scenarios are like old friends now." I didn't laugh. Not yet. But something in my chest unclenched. Just a little. The press swarm was thick by then. Cameras, microphones, flashbulbs. Reporters shouting questions like bullets without barrels. I didn't answer most of them. Just walked. My steps crunching over gravel. The children, my nieces and nephews, were being escorted out of the estate by child services. Their faces were blank. Confused. Innocent. That hit harder than any betrayal. I swallowed. To stand in the storm and not be shaken, I said to myself. That's the fight worth surviving. Martine caught up with me. "You did it," she said. "No," I corrected her. "We did it." Jordan walked beside me. "We can rebuild," he said. Rebuild. That word tasted strange. Not heavy. Not forced. Just honest. For a moment, I thought of Vivian's voice, calm, calculated, and how she believed control was the answer. I knew then that power isn't dominance. It's choice. And the freedom to make it. The press helicopters thumped above like mechanical vultures, but I didn't flinch. Not this time. I felt something instead, clarity. And purpose. Because what happened wasn't just about stolen trust or forged signatures. It was about reclaiming identity. Reclaiming agency. Reclaiming truth. Later, in a quieter room, I faced a camera. No bright lights. Just me. Just truth. I spoke slow. "This isn't just about me," I said. "It's about what happens when someone believes their version of family is above law, above consent, above humanity." I paused. The lens stayed steady. Family isn't ownership. It's choice. And choice can't be forced. Outside, the rain finally began. Slow. Soft. Cleansing. I stood by the window watching. The droplets traced slow paths down the glass, like voices washing away the dust of deceit. I breathed in deep, and thought of something I once heard. The hardest battles are the ones within. Cold truth, but real. Vivian's fate would be decided in court. The Monroe trust would be dissolved. And the children, free of proxy control, would rebuild their lives on a foundation that wasn't forged in hidden files and hidden fear. I closed my eyes, lengthened breath. I was no longer the pawn, no longer the proxy. I was me, Lena Monroe, not defined by anyone's legacy, but by my own will. And as the rain fell harder, I whispered to the wind. Truth doesn't just set you free. It reminds you why freedom matters. That was the real inheritance. Not money, not power, freedom, and real family, chosen, not coded.